Last week, I talked about audiobooks with Grammy Award-winning director Paul Alan Ruben. And this week, you're going to hear from his wife, fellow audiobook director Paula Parker. I shared how I met and became friends with Paul in last week's episode. And when he was staying with us in LA, he just kept saying, "Oh, you just have to meet Paula. You will love each other." And I knew Paula by reputation, of course. Actors would tell me, "Tess, you have to beg to work with her. It is exhilarating. She is so brilliant and she will make you better than you ever thought you could be." So, of course, I was dying to meet her. And you know, when you have someone built up in your mind to almost godlike status, and then you meet them and they're even more spectacular than you imagined. That is how I felt when I met Paula. Scott, my partner, and I flew out to New York to attend Katie Kelgren's funeral service. She was a dear friend of ours and of Paul and Paula's. And it was a beautiful celebration of life, of a great actor and an even more special person. And we all got to reminisce and cry together. And afterwards, when we were on the subway going back to Brooklyn, Paula and I sat together and just got into everything from what we loved about Katie to our favourite books and plays and movies and gushing over Aidan Turner with his shirt off in Poldark. And I just knew that I'd met a soulmate. And over many years, our friendship has just grown and deepened. When I stay with them in New York, we always find ourselves curled up on their couch talking for hours and hours until the wee hours of the morning about everything. And I just love talking to her about books and plays and acting and performances. Oh, she's so smart and has fascinating insights about human behavior and just an infectious love of storytelling. Oh, and she's my absolute favorite person to go to the theatre with, squeeze hands with during the show when it's amazing, and we just debrief all the way home because she started as an actor, performing in theatre in Chicago and in New York at the Public Theatre and other off-Broadway venues, and doing voiceovers for commercials and animated series, books and films. Paul has also trained other actors at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts and the Neighborhood Playhouse, and coaches actors from Broadway and film in audiobook narration. Paula ran her own production company with Paul for over 20 years before selling it. And through her company and others, she has produced and directed hundreds of titles with the major US publishers. One of her superpowers is casting the right actor for the job. She has an incredible eye and ear for talent and a gift for communicating with actors, which just results in the most exquisite performances, which is why she's one of the go-to directors for high-profile narrators and celebrities. I just listened to Neil Gaiman's American Gods 10th anniversary edition, Brimstone with Renee Auberjonois, which won Audiobook of the Year. And of course, Always Looking Up with Michael J. Fox, which won a Grammy Award. Why is it that some audiobooks have you on the edge of your seat, believing that you're living inside the story, while others just leave you out in the cold? We are going to get into all of it with Paula. Oh, for actors, you are going to gobble up what she has to say. And for audiobook listeners, I think hearing from Paula is going to change how you choose and listen to audiobooks. I'm just so excited that you get to meet my dear friend today. So let's dive in and get the skinny from Paula Parker. Oh, Paula, we get to have one of our fantastic conversations. And dear listener, you get to curl up on the couch with us and hopefully feel like you're having lunch with us. So, Paula, I want to start with where your love of story came from. Was it as a child?
Well, yes, I believe it was. My mother and we used to sing together. I can remember 3 years old, and I had a repertoire that included Stranger in Paradise from
Yeah.
Kiss Me Kate. Uh, I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey. Better be ready by 8:30. And my friend's parents would give me a quarter. And I was a 4-year-old girl, and I was amassing these quarters. And so my love of story and performance, and my mother would always tell me stories, which we did with our son later, which she would put my name in the story as
Oh,
saving the day, etc. And
oh. And so is that what made you want to go and study theatre and make it your vocation?
Yes, yes. I was always dramatic, you might say. And no, it started for me in the seventh grade.
Oh,
And
what happened in the seventh grade?
I was cast in a production of Little Abner that we did
Oh,
at my junior high. And I'm from the state of Illinois, and Illinois has very developed theater programs in all their schools, starting in
yeah.
junior high, in high school. Every year in high school, we did a bus and truck show. There was state competitions in which I won an all-state cast when I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
But it really started when I was 3 years old singing Stranger in Paradise with hand motions and everything.
Oh,
And so, yeah, and there's nothing better to me in terms of what you can read, et cetera, books, et cetera, but a good play. Because when you
oh.
have a good play, you need very little other than good actors, of course, but the play itself and maybe a surprise or two prop. But I
Mm.
love black box theater
I
because
do too. You
it,
and I have
it
many a time sat on your
yeah,
couch talking
yes,
about
yes,
the glory of the black box. What
yes.
was the first really good play that you remember reading going, ooh, this is all we need?
Let me see. Hmm. Actually, it was Our Town,
Oh,
and I felt that that's really all that you need is I don't know, maybe some desks, some chairs, and as it would happen, I saw a production in a black box by the great director years later by the great director David Cromer,
oh,
and he always puts in a surprise. So there you were in a black box theater on Christopher Street in the West Village, and with some wonderful actors that we knew and some we came to know. And there were some desks and some chairs. And then I forget, like in the third act, I forget where it is exactly, but all of a sudden you smelled bacon. You said, wow, where is this restaurant? This restaurant is, they don't have very good ventilation. And the curtain was pulled in the back of the theater. You thought maybe there were just props and stuff in the back there. There was an entire kitchen, and they were cooking breakfast, and they were making bacon and eggs.
oh,
And that was David Cromer's surprise in this particular production.
oh. So you were in the kitchen with them having
Yes.
breakfast, just
Hmm.
sensorially.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
so was that your first experience of really bringing the audience in as a participant? Because I know that you and I
Yes,
talk about this a lot. This is
yes,
big for you.
yes, it is. It absolutely is. I think that the audience is right beside you.
Mm,
And I think that if you, as a performer and as an audiobook narrator, if you don't consider them, you are losing half of the dynamism of your performance.
yeah.
And that's why, as I have read recently, and we talked about, Nathan Lane is going to play Willie Loman, and there's going to be a huge theater in which they are going to remove some of the seats so that the audience can be closer
Yeah.
to this play, to this performance. And we also have talked about before where Jessica Chastain, who has a huge emotional life, she would cut out the audience. And if somebody coughed, she would get mad, la, la, la. And then in her a recent production a couple of years ago of Dollhouse, she
Yeah.
would go at half hour when most actors are just relaxing and ready to go on stage. She would go out at half hour and watch as the audience came in. And
Mm,
so, and I saw that, and it did draw me closer to the play. And there was very few props, and they used the brick of the back of the house, I mean the stage, and that was it. And when you have just essential props, it brings the action and makes so much more of an impact. So that when at the end of the play she walked out literally of the theater,
yeah.
you could hear everybody. Oh, you saw, I know you saw it too.
Yeah.
Everybody just went, oh,
Yeah.
you know.
And you felt like you had lost her as
Yes,
well.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm,
So what was the it has to be me to go into drama school to be a
yeah.
part of this? I want to be breathing this and I want to
Yeah,
be part of this storytelling process.
sure. It's like when I did Bus and Trucks every year, we had a director in high school, and he was not for the vulnerable personality, because it's a very tender age. And a
Mm.
lot of kids would be directed by him, and then they would leave the plays because they couldn't take it. And he taught me more about theater than probably anybody I've ever worked with. And I stayed there because I was getting something that I wanted, and I got it because I'm a small girl, woman. I had red hair, and it was, I had red hair, I'll say. And a lot of times I was not thought of first. And I said to myself, you hang in there and you will be thought of. And I was. And the
Mm.
same thing happened when I went to college. I got a scholarship to Southern Illinois University. And when I was a senior, I was directed, I was like almost 22 years old. I was directed by Maria Piscator, who was the wife of Erwin Piscator, who
Yeah.
was Bertolt Brecht was the best man at their wedding,
Yeah.
and it was part of the Berliner Ensemble. And it happened that this show then went to the Public Theater, and I did, it was a short run at the Public Theater, but I was there when Al Pacino was doing the basic training of Pablo Hummel, which was
Oh,
the show that introduced Al to
oh,
the world. And so that shows how far back I go. So
oh, fabulous. I want to go
yeah,
back a little bit to what you were saying before about that he taught
yeah,
you more than anybody else. What
right,
did he
right.
teach you?
The discipline of theater. And
Mm.
that when you're acting, when you're rehearsing, you just don't walk through it. When you rehearse, you go through the performance like you were performing it. Every time you come up on that stage, you use the same kind of energy. Because, I've worked with actors and it's fine. It's the way they work. It's the way they learn things. But I would always learn lines, before I was rehearsing. I would always put every bit of energy into the rehearsal of the particular thing I was doing. And everybody works differently, but that's how I got the most out of it. And that if he spoke to you, he would call me Parker all the time. Parker, did you do this? Parker, did you do that? You know, and because the world is tough and the world
Yeah.
of theater is tough. And I think he wanted to make us understand that from the beginning. And his name was Sam Phillips. And, when I think back of that time, I mean, it was a great learning time,
Yeah.
definitely. And yeah,
Oh, so you meet Paul.
yes, I met Paul. I met Paul. I was in Southern Illinois University, and in the summertime, they had a rep company, and he was a guest artist. And everybody wanted to be his friend
Because he's
because
so funny.
he was funny. And I don't know, he hung around with tequila a couple of times. But anyway, he is, we're both small people. My son calls us the wedding cake couple. But anyway,
She
so
could fit on top of the wedding cake.
yeah, okay, thanks a lot, kid. So when he was painting scenery one day, I didn't know him, and I saw him from far away, and he had a very big mustache. So I said, I thought he was a town boy. I said, that's a very big mustache for such a young boy. And then I saw him coming out of the theater one day, and I said, oh, you're a lot older than I thought you were. And so his friend said, no, he said to his friend, who's that? And then all of a sudden, everywhere I went, there he was. There he was. I was at the water fountain. He was in back of me. I was in the theater. There he was. I was painting scenery. He was getting a brush next to me. So I don't know. Something happened.
I feel like we're in one of those vignettes from When Harry Met Sally now.
Yeah. And so,
Oh,
we were together. We've been together ever since. So,
oh, and what a glorious partnership it is. So you
mm.
decide it has to be me. We're moving to New York City, where the action is, where all this
Yes,
great
yes.
theater
I
is.
mean, we were in Chicago, where I'm from, and I had auditioned around there. It was before the time of Steppenwolf and all that. It was dinner theater, really,
Yeah.
and some very good dinner theaters. And I was getting close to things. It's always numbers, of course. If you have the abilities, you have the type. It's always numbers. So anyway, he always wanted to move to New York, and he was also working with Second City at the time, and there was a couple of opportunities there, but we did want to move to New York. I always wanted to move to New York. So we did in the summer of 74. So that's a ways back. That's before the Upper West Side became the multi-million-dollar Upper West
Yeah.
Side when bullets were still flying on Columbus Avenue, and and we got this beautiful. He went by himself. This beautiful apartment on Horatio Street, Horatio and
Oh,
Gray.
you've told me about this. Yeah.
Yes, it was gorgeous. Today, the actress Cherry Jones lives there, and it's still the same super, but it turned
Uh,
into a co-op. And it was a beautiful apartment because it had a lot of different corners
yeah.
where you could have flowers in one corner and da 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 da. It was very nice. It was a lovely way to start a life in New York. And I got a
Yeah.
job with a publisher that Paul knew, and also her husband was the agent for Miles Davis, and
Oh,
Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings.
yeah.
So there I was as a young Midwestern girl working in the office of Miles Davis, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings.
Oh
And
gosh. And take me inside when you started to do so many voiceovers, where that
yeah,
became a really big part of your world that then became the beginning of moving into producing all of this stuff for audio.
right, right. I had a very young voice that was good for children's things. I also had been auditioning, in those days, and probably still today, but not as much. You could make a very, very lot of money if you had a good agent. And so there were some almost with some really good representation for me. Um, and I had met someone that I started to do film dubbing.
Mm.
And I dubbed cartoons. I dubbed a movie, a feature that Vittoria De Sica had directed. And you made really good money from
Yeah.
SAG-AFTRA when you dub films. So that was part of it. And then through that, I met other people, and I would do children's cassettes. On cassette, I was Shira, the Princess of Power for a while, and
That's
and then
right.
do other things that what led to English learning. English as a second language learning because there's a big market here,
Yeah.
and then meeting just a lot of other people in that subset of voiceovers, and that's how
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah, and where did the teaching fit into it? Because you really are
Yeah,
a gifted teacher, being able
thank you.
to impart knowledge to others and being able to facilitate, an actor's journey through something in a lot of different ways, and that's what makes you such a fantastic director.
No, thank you.
Where did that skill first get cultivated in you, where you started to teach? Was it at the Academy of Dramatic
Yes,
Arts?
yeah. I worked for, a couple of 3 years at the American Academy of Dramatic Art, which they now call ADA.
Yeah.
And I think when I was interviewed, I think they wanted a personality, a person that would be gentle with egos, that could impart knowledge. And I think that, yeah, the day is for them and not for you. And
Mm.
and and that's how I work all the time. I remember I was American Idol had this, heartthrob from the South. And he was doing they voted for him a gazillion times, and that was one of the reasons that he won. Well, I don't know, but probably. Anyway, I went down to record his memoir. And I remember when they set me down there, somebody had said, and I took this as a compliment, well, she won't bring her ego in when she walks in the
Oh,
room.
it is a compliment.
I,
Absolutely.
yeah, I took it as such.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. And yeah, so I taught at ADA, and I some of my students went on, they had some great careers, and I was very proud to see them do that. On soap and in comedy and things like that. And I still teach when I direct audiobooks. Um, it's a form. It's a form of teaching. Of course it is.
Yeah,
And
well, you learn by doing too, and you
yes,
learn by working with great people, and you learn by watching other great actors. You learn by being in the booth, by being on stage. You learn to, that old adage of good actors borrow, great actors steal, and then you make it your own, and you
yes,
go, whoa, I
yes.
like their work ethic, or I like the way that their attack, or the way that they take direction, or it could be so many things.
Well,
But
and
yeah,
yeah, I just wanted to say, and I did leave that aspect of teaching because I wanted to, just work for myself and do my own things.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's
What took
yeah,
you out of teaching at that time at the academy? Because I remember you telling me about the showing versus telling,
right,
and that
right,
after a time you kind of went, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that particular dynamic. So just take me
right,
inside of
right.
that, because I think it's really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, when my students, when I started to show them, get up on, in class and show them rather than helping them come to find it.
Mm,
And rather than working with them till they found it, I was showing them. And I said, you know what, you can't do that. That's not really teaching. And so I had to decide what it was that I wanted to continue to do for myself. And
and
yeah,
what was that at that time?
well, still audition and pursue acting. And I did some off-Broadway shows. Paul at that time had written a play, and it was produced off-Broadway, and
Yeah.
I had a very good role in that. And I did a play about suffragettes. It wasn't thoughts, it was not that, but it was a play called, it was, I don't want to have people get confused, but it was a play about suffragettes and suffrage. It was a musical, and it was great, and a couple of other things. I never hit the Great White Way, but I had some nice
Yeah,
experiences.
well, you and me both, right? You and I have talked about this a lot, and it is interesting where you find the place that lights you up within
Yes,
it. And you have
exactly.
so many different skill sets that when you and Paul decided to start this company and then worked in it for 20 years,
Yeah,
doing all of this incredible audio production long before audiobooks were the huge things that they are today, you're very instrumental in really, laying that community and being part of it and cultivating it in New York City. What did you learn from working on those projects and producing and directing and being part of how the sausage was made, so to speak?
yeah. Well, what I learned was that every time I got up to direct someone, my prior knowledge enabled me to think on my feet. And when I was thinking, and still am thinking on my feet, it distills itself to other things. That as having done this for 20-25 years, I know to work, shall I say? I know to be true in that particular instance. And mostly I'm happy for the people when they get work. I
Yeah.
know this might sound Pollyannish, but I am. And the fact that so many people now can do audiobooks, can make a living at it, and maybe they don't have to be waitresses or bartenders
Yeah.
anymore. And so that feeling every time somebody gets into the booth, I I feel happy for them, and I want them to have a good day, and I want them to feel confident and comfortable. I want them to learn, and yeah, that makes my day. And those are things that I learned because as an actor, one can be envious at times. And when you're young and you're striving for this and that and blah blah blah, and the famous phrase when I was younger was, "Oh, how did you get that?" And you're thinking to yourself, "How did I get that? I wasn't set up for that." And so then when you have your own thing that speaks to you and is close to who you are, then that has long, 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 long left me, long
Yeah.
ago left me.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is impart that good feeling about what you're doing to them. And I help them seek and then find. Even though, when you seek, it takes more time. No, You can seek in that moment and you can find what works better. I always say, let's see what this sounds like when I'm correct, when I'm giving a direction to someone. I point them in a direction. I say, let's see what this sounds like. Not like, yeah, do it like this. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when we had our business and I was working with talent and I was casting talent, because though I don't do it much anymore, back in the day, uh, we did cast a lot of things because we were, yeah, they enabled us to do that. And I brought a lot of good people into the business. I think I have a pretty good ear. And so that
Oh, I
always,
think you've got a pretty good ear, Paula. Yeah.
and and that made me happy too,
What are
to
you wanting to hear? Like when
when,
you're listening to an actor,
yeah,
when you were casting things,
yeah, yeah,
and also as a director now, and just as a
yeah,
listener, as an audience
yeah,
member,
yeah,
what are
yeah.
you looking to hear that captures your heart and your imagination that said, "Yeah, I'm going to pick that person."
Okay, first of all, we would bring in voices that probably were fit who the protagonist is. And then I listen if they're telling me the story and not using their voice.
Mm,
In other words, you have to speak. But as somebody I'm very close to says, the voice can't act. And
yes.
so if they tell the story with the feelings under the words, because words themselves represent ideas. You
Mm.
don't have to help them with that. They mean what they mean.
Yeah,
But
Paul
what do
always
they,
says that, doesn't he? Don't help me. Don't help me.
yeah,
Don't help
that's
me.
right. That's right. But you have to let the words help themselves and you help the feeling under the word.
Mm,
And so I think once someone understands that, then they can just go from what is happening in the scene and let the emotion come out from there.
yeah.
That they are connected to what's going on underneath
So
and
it's like
let
what
the,
you were saying about Jessica Chastain having a rich
yes,
emotional life.
yes, yes,
You're looking for
exactly.
people that have they're inside the story.
Right, right. And are connected to it. And a lot of times, okay, so what does that connection mean? And so I try to impart that to them about words having ideas. Don't help the words. They mean what they mean. British actors are so good at that. They just let the word stand for what it stands for. They don't beat it over the head. They're not too emotional. They just give what's going on. And that's what I listen for. Do they give what's going on? Do they bring me into the story? Do they put their arm around me? Is it intimate feeling? And that's what and just like when you go out with somebody, if you know you're going to have a second date, you know when you know.
So what repels you where you're like, don't want any second date with you?
Yeah. Yeah. If they're too loud, in terms of audiobooks, if they're too loud, if if they haven't defined the medium for themselves, because
Oh, tell
we
me what you mean by that exactly.
okay, okay, you are telling a story to someone, they're right across from you.
Mm,
And are you taking that into consideration? Are you being too big? Because it doesn't matter who's listening to you. If you're being too big, if you're stage acting
mm,
in an audiobook, that can't go because A, you're not connecting, and B, you're not considering who you're speaking to. Because yeah, audiobook performance is a lot like film.
it's
It's
intimate.
yes, very, very. And stage acting is totally different. And there are those who would say, well, no, it's not, but yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. But I can go into that at another time. So yeah, so they have to have the basic of what I feel, the basic stuff going to begin with, because I don't know if when you're trying to cast someone, you can't do all the teaching of everything because I mean, do they have a basic ABC set of skills to begin with?
Yeah.
And and you can hear that. You can really hear that.
So
And
it does not have to be me anymore moment where you and Paul sell the business and then
Uh-huh.
you stay on for a
Right.
couple of years and were very
Yes.
instrumental in growing that business.
Mm-hmm.
What was
Yes.
that like for you, that transition where you weren't the owner anymore, but
Yeah.
you were still a custodian
Yes, I
of
was a
this
custodian.
journey?
Yeah. Yeah. At that time, growing the business meant that I had to find places that I could bring it to verbally so that I
Mm,
could grow it. So, as I did when Paul and I owned it, I went to conventions. I sought out groups that, for instance, I grew the educational wing of the business that we had started. So I went to educational business, educational conferences. And when you have something good, I don't have a problem telling people about it. A
yeah,
lot of people have problems picking up telephones, talking to people. When you have something good, I don't have a problem with telling people about it. And so I was able to grow the business to the young man that we sold it to in a very significant way. And I was
very significant.
very
Like
proud
the
of that
stuff of
too.
legends now. Yeah.
I was very proud of that too.
Yeah.
And that's another skill set that you're exercising. I remember I was at one convention, and romance is a very big genre in audiobooks. And I went to I always ask for the decision maker. So one of the vice presidents of what is the big romance
Harlequin.
Harlequin. There it is. So I told her
Oh, we've all
who.
narrated books for Harlequin.
Yeah, really. I told her who I was, what my company did. This was when Paul and I still owned it. And she said, "Oh no, our listeners would they take it's a very private thing reading our romances. They would never listen to someone else telling the story." And usually I'm more aggressive than that. And I said, "Oh, okay, well, thank you." What? That doesn't the Paula I knew. But anyway, she was a big deal. But hopefully she doesn't have her job today. I don't know.
Oh, God, was
Anyway,
she
yes,
wrong?
unbelievable, unbelievable.
Wow.
So that was just one instance. Yeah.
What's coming up for me as I'm listening to you is this skill set that you have of advocating and championing other people.
Yeah.
You
I am.
celebrate and elevate people like nobody I have ever seen.
Oh, well, thank you.
It is a superpower of yours.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
where did that come from? How did that get cultivated? Because I think it's a beautiful skill and you do it so well and very gently, as you pointed out.
Mm,
You
yeah.
don't rule with an iron fist, so to speak.
You know, I think I've always been like that. I don't know. I
Really?
remember, yeah, I remember I majored in speech and drama in college, and I thought I was going to be for a while a speech and drama teacher in high school. And
Yeah.
so I did in my next door, my town next door. I did my student teaching, they call it, and I put on a show. And one of the girls in the show, we became friends. And she wasn't too much younger than me because I was very young when I student taught. And I followed her. She became an opera singer. And when it was hard for her to, get placed in and know about things around town, I made sure that she knew about where they were having opera at some restaurants on different days and da 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 da. And that was a long, long time ago. But every time back in the day when I was an actress and I had to do part-time jobs to keep up my auditioning habit, I worked for a lot of different people. And there was a play a few years ago that a young woman wrote called Blown Sideways Through Life, when she talked about all of her part-time jobs. Well, I could say the same thing. At one time, there was Paul's cousin. He had four cousins in the room at one time. And I could attach somebody they wanted to do this and that and the other thing. And I knew people in every one of those fields from the part-time jobs that I had
Yeah.
done. And so it felt good for me to be able to do that. And it
Yeah.
still does because you know what? It takes so little. It takes
Oh, I
so
agree.
little to do. And
And it
and
means so much to the recipient.
yes, exactly. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't mean that it wasn't tried. And yeah, that's how I feel. It makes me feel good. I can, it's like giving something. You're not giving money or anything, but you're giving your thought, a little bit of your time, and a lot of your hope.
Oh,
So,
I love that. Hope. Oh, hope and
yeah,
love, the two most powerful forces in the world.
yeah.
So
Hmm.
you were wearing all these different hats, growing your own business, and then helping grow the business that you sold in an extraordinary way. And then you transitioned into full-time directing. And
Yeah,
so what was that like for you, that it has to be me? Yeah, this is actually what I'm meant to be doing. This lights me up.
yeah. Um, well, I had directed when we owned the businesses a lot.
Yeah.
And then when a friend passed on to another producer that I was freelance, the time had come for me to be on my own. Um, I was hired right away, and
I'll bet.
I've been hired ever since.
You
And
have.
I really enjoy it because I really impart the knowledge and the skill that I have. I really enjoy imparting the knowledge and the skill that I have in a way that is not overbearing, that is not intrusive, but yet the actor understands the parlance with which I am giving that direction. And there's nothing better than to have a willing actor, a narrator, to work with you, and you giving them a direction, and then they turn it into gold. And it's
Mm.
very satisfying. I believe it to be satisfying for them, and it certainly is satisfying for me.
Oh,
Um,
it is glorious when you collaborate in that way. I remember
yes,
you saying
yes.
something to me a long time ago that great actors want to be ridden like stallions.
Horses want to be ridden for sure, and a great actor, yes, they want that. They want to be directed. Every actor wants to be directed, for the most part, I think. And then they want a director that knows the language to communicate with them and
Mm.
and and go back and forth like that and have
Yeah.
the whole experience be like that. Yeah.
I want to ask you about one of the,
Yeah.
oh God, you've told me so many stories over the years that are so incredible. But one of the
Yeah.
ones that really stuck with me, and I asked Paul about this as well, was the Michael J. Fox story
Yes.
when
Yes.
you directed him and then you ended up winning the Grammy for that beautiful book. And Paul, tells his version of the story about how he took his foot off the pedal, because Michael J. Fox had Parkinson's and, he was surrounded by all these minders and he was a lot more gentle and different than he would normally be with an actor who didn't have a disability.
Right.
Whereas you rode him like a stallion. And so tell me about that for you, because we've heard about Paul's experience with that.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, where you just went, I'm going to treat him like any other actor, and he
Yeah. Yeah.
loved it?
Yes. Yes. He's a prince of a fellow. I'll just say that up front.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, the Minders had been either at lunch or something like that, and it was just me and Michael. And I treated him like any other actor, and absolutely, he took the direction. We just went, and if there was something that I wanted to try a different way, I would ask him. He did. We would select what sounded the best in that particular instance, and went from there. And it was a great experience. It was a great experience.
Paul tells the
Yeah.
funny story about how when it was time to say goodbye, he was like chopped liver and, Michael was fawning all over you because he felt like you were instrumental in making the book better.
So yeah, it's what can I say? And sometimes, and I give him all the credit for that, of course, but sometimes it's still a man's world, you know, and you
Oh,
still have
tell
to
me about what that's been like
speak
for
up.
you.
It's fine. I mean, none of my nearest and dearest, that isn't no. But one year, I was up for I think it won Audiobook of the Year,
Mm,
and then I was up for directing a multicast, which did not.
mm.
But my name wasn't given. It was all Paul Ruben Productions.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that story. Yeah,
Yeah,
what did that feel like?
I didn't like it,
Of course.
but people knew who directed it, so that was okay. But I didn't want to make a big deal of it. But I wish that it would have been Paula Parker for Paul Ruben Productions or
Mm.
something like that.
What's it like for you being in a partnership with somebody else that looms so largely in the community?
Yeah. Um, you know, I'm not a jealous person. And I really, Paul, my husband Paul Ruben, is probably the most disciplined person I've ever known.
Mm.
I have to catch up a lot. And I really admire his discipline. I admire how he works with narrators. And I have my own thing. I have my own way. And so for me not to give him all of the stage when he's there is, it would be very short-sighted. And I think that we respect each other very much. And I think that's, one of the attributes to our relationship. And I don't know. In terms of Paul, I've never been envious because we both do what we do. In terms of
Well, I think
a
also
tall,
you're both collectively, I mean, it's not in dispute, known as the two best audiobook directors in the world.
oh, well, thank
And all the top narrators clamor to work with you, rave about working with you. And the very big narrators that I know and friends with, obviously, they're mutual friends of ours, just talk about your style in particular,
Oh,
how
okay.
it's like drawing it out of you, inviting it out of you, is what they
That's
say.
really good. Oh, I like that. I like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because that's what I would that's how
And
I
that
would
and that you're
practice that.
dancing. When you work with Paula, you dance with
Wow.
her, is what they all
Wow.
say.
I
Or
love
or
that.
a version of that. It's very
Well, I
beautiful.
love because dancing is my favorite thing.
I
One of them
know.
to
I
do.
thought I thought you would love hearing that.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. I have to invite it out of you. I love that. Wow.
Yeah, it's
That
beautiful.
makes
And
me
so
happy.
when you and Paul go to these audiobook events with narrators, I know that's one of your
Hmm.
favorite things to do every year is go to these
Yeah,
events. You look forward to it. It's such a beautiful community of people
it
really
is.
supporting each other. It's glorious. What do you love about being on those panels, talking to actors, sharing what you know and what you're continually discovering?
What I love is trying new things.
Mm.
I want to help them, whether they are trained actors or not. There is an actor. If they weren't actors in some way, they wouldn't be there. How do you wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I think I'll narrate audiobooks"? I mean, I'm sure there are people, but most of the people I talk to, they were either in school plays or da 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 da, and they have buried this little acorn inside themselves. And now it's time for the acorn to grow into an oak. And so I talk to them like they were actors, and they love it. And so I bring things to them that they normally wouldn't get in perhaps a narration, a coaching session. I treat them like actors. I tell them how to get inside. I'm working on the language all the time so that they can help connect and reconnect. So that, when they're in their home studios and they have to punch and roll and they have to go back and punch themselves into where they were, how do you set yourself up again to connect to the stuff and not just, I call it oral interp. Are
Mm.
you acting? Are you are you connected? Are you in the feeling underneath the words? Are you letting the words carry their own ideas, or are you giving me oral interp? And they
Mm.
they laugh because they understand. They
Yeah.
know. They know. And so I'm working on different language to help them reconnect all the time and not look at a piece and think one thing only. Oh, this is that. Oh, this is that. No, this line is this. This line is that. You can't just put one little banner over the top. Oh, this is about the best recipe my grandmother ever made. No, this is about you discovering that recipe in a box of recipes when she passed away and you were going through her things and da da da. And I get this out of them and they can't believe it.
Mm.
And I love that. I love making a narrator or anybody an actor.
Mm.
And that's what I like.
And then the audience is right there. with you. They can smell the box. They can see the
Yes.
box. They can touch the paper. They can see the handwriting. They know what it looks like. They can smell
Right.
it. I mean,
Right.
once you have it, you can bring us with you. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so extraordinary. Tell me about the breath, because I know that this is something you've always been connected to, and you've really been revisiting this lately about
Yeah.
breath
Yeah.
work and being
Yeah.
on the breath. And I know you're a Linklater, Kristen Linklater
Yeah.
fan like
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you discovering and rediscovering about that in terms of being a human being and being an
Right.
actor?
Right. Right. Well, when you act, you know how you'll see somebody and they'll in a scene somewhere and they'll break the breath. That takes you out of the moment. You take the breath. You don't break the breath. Even when you're doing a scene in a narration, and when you breathe, you have to take time to breathe. Your listener will breathe with you. You have to believe this. Your listener does what you do. They breathe with you. And so what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to, and I'm doing a very bastardized version of this. So anybody who is into Linklater and they're hearing me, please forgive me because I'm getting more into it. But I want to get the narrator and any actor out of their head and into their gut. And so Kristen Linklater says, you put a brain in your lips and you put another one in your gut. In other words, right about your midriff, around there. And then what I tell the actor, the narrator, is you don't want to have any more voice. You want to use less voice to make it intimate than is wider than the width of your skull. Because I was trying to give them a geographic place to go to. Because, okay, a singer has all kinds of geography to place in the palate, in your nose, in, in the front of your mouth. A singer has all kinds of places to place their voice and then act the song from there. Okay, where does the actor place their voice? That's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm going to be studying this more this year. And so when I asked them to do that, and then, I directed them in the different version of finding the grandmother's recipe. Um, they 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 allowed themselves to get out of their head and the feelings under the words and what every line, what they could discover. And then before they started, take a big breath and let the feelings out on that breath. And what they discovered was pretty magical to them
Because
and
there
to
is
us.
something about embodied
Yes,
performance as
yes,
opposed to a talking head speaking into a microphone.
yes, yes. Oh my God.
Oh,
You
dead.
and I tell them it's harder than oral interp. They laugh. It's harder. And when you have, a row of 6 books that you have to get da 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 da, it's hard, and you're going to be tired. But I want you to have a satisfying experience, and I want your listener to have a satisfying experience. And this really happened. I want your listener to get a speeding ticket because they were so involved in listening to the book. And that happened to one of our clients. She wrote to us and she said, so-and-so's performance was so good. It was so great that I got a speeding ticket.
Because I was on the train with them. I mean,
Exactly.
as I'm
Exactly.
hearing you, I'm thinking about how we want to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
Oral
Yes.
interp,
Yes.
gymnastics, it might impress you, but it doesn't move you.
Right. Right.
And story is about experience.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not about words. It's not about themes. It's not about oral interp. It's not about intellectualizing things. It's about feeling. Am I moved by this? Am I invested? Am I forgetting that I'm not the character right now? That's the
Right.
thing. I mean, that's the great storytelling does, doesn't it?
Yes.
So this breath work that you're talking about and giving an embodied, full, rich performance and
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
that with the listener so that they
Yeah.
feel it too.
Yeah. I have to, oh, go ahead, Tess. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. Go, please.
Yeah. I mean, you have to look at the personality you're dealing with.
Oh, see, you and I are in simpatico right now because this is exactly where I was going to. How do
Yeah,
you get somebody there?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody that is very controlling and does
Mm,
audiobooks, but is very controlling. Um, I do it line by line when I'm trying to coach them. And I also tell them that it would behoove them to take an acting class. Um, and we just do it over and over again in these sessions, in these conferences I go to, until the feeling is there for them. Now, they said, I've never felt this before. I've never done this before. And just using those images, the brain, two places, no more voice than the width of your head. Where is the geographic locale so that you can go back? For narrators in particular, in the home
mm.
studio where they don't have directors mostly, you know, where can you locate your voice out of your head so that then you can let the words carry the ideas and you just do the feeling underneath and taking the breath and not breaking the breath. And yeah, I wish there was an easier prescription, and I'm working and working and working on it. And this is in particular for narration, in particular, in
I mean,
particular.
art isn't easy though. Like I remember I told you this story, when I was rehearsing The Comeuppance, and
Yeah,
Gary Abrams was directing it. He's tough. Brilliant director, but tough. And at the end of rehearsal, and particularly if it was a really tough day, and people would be crying or upset or deflated
yeah,
or whatever it might be, or just exhausted, he'd go, yeah, it's hard making theatre, isn't it? That's just how it was, right? And yeah, it's hard. And then it's exhilarating and it's all the things. And look, I feel the frustration because it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Going back to what you were saying before, that
yeah, yeah,
Amazon buying Audible and audiobooks getting so big and actors being able to punch and roll and record from home without directors on their own. It gives all these people work and we churn out, hundreds of thousands of books. And yet a lot of them are really substandard in performance because people aren't getting the kind of direction that you and Paul offer. There are very few directors that work the way that the two of you do. So closely with actors. A lot of people that call themselves audiobook directors are basically just listening to see if someone missed a word or flubbed a line or mispronounced something. And it's really that kind of direction.
yeah,
It's technical direction. It's not actually performance related
yeah,
direction.
yeah,
And then we've got a lot of people, in my opinion, directing audiobooks that shouldn't be directing audiobooks, but that's a conversation for another day.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so you spoke about what you impart to willing actors was the term that you used, which I
Yeah.
love. Willing actors that want to be better, want to experience the magic, want to catch the wave, so to speak,
Mhm,
and be in the
mhm.
flow of the magic, as we know we all
Right.
want to be as actors.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it like to not have a willing actor? So you
Well,
work with a celebrity who thinks they know everything, don't want to be directed. I know you've been in those situations.
but
What do you
all
do there?
well, you get the hint real quick. Excuse me. I had one actress who was very contrary. And listen, the English language is very flexible. Things can be said a lot of different ways. But I've been sitting in this chair for over 25 years. And there is a way, in terms of the story you're telling, that the line lies the best on the ear.
Mm.
And I'm just sitting, listening, being entertained, and hopefully working with you. But every time I gave it, she was a contrarian. She wanted to talk with me more about the problem she was having in her co-op than she did want to hear from me. It was like, you know what, just send me the check. It's kind of like that.
Mm.
And so I got the hint, so I didn't. Then I worked with her again. I thought, oh, great, all right, well, hey, I get paid regardless. So anyway, at the end, and it was a great book. It was a multicast. At the end, she said, well, thank you very much for your help, Paula. Well, who am I, Mrs. McGillicuddy? And she didn't. never didn't bother to find out who I was.
Oh, well, that's a shame on her.
So it was like, I said, well, you're welcome. And like that. And so, you get those stories all the time, all the time. And, I don't take it personally because for every one of those, I've had another one that has been bliss, you know, very, very excellent. One young woman lives down the block from me. How coincidental. I could walk to her house and she requested me and we had another wonderful time working together. And
listen, all the stallions request you because they want to be ridden and ridden
yeah,
and
yeah,
ridden and
yeah,
get better
yeah,
and
yeah,
better and catch
yeah.
another wave. I mean, that's another thing people say. You got to catch the wave, and if you want to catch the wave, you need Paula to do it. It's extraordinary to have that reputation, to be requested, to be able to work with willing actors. I also know that you work with authors who are not actors, and
No.
particularly authors who've just written one book and they're going to narrate it themselves. How is that different in terms of modulating how you would communicate and work with somebody?
Right, right. Well, I tell them how I'm going to work in terms of what they've written. If they change a word, I'll consult you. And if you say it's okay as it is, our engineer will put author okay. But my job when working with authors is to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel confident in what they've written. And I'm telling you, some of the best books I've ever done have been the author reads. They don't read their own fiction a lot. I've only come across two that they were actors before they were authors. So they give that to an actor. But nonfiction, self-help, etc. And we have a great time because I want them to understand that what they've written imparts really good knowledge and that I'm getting a lot from it because I am. And then I try to help them. Listeners want to hear the author, and they do, 100%. And so, we're going to make this the best we possibly can because they're waiting to hear from you. And
I love that. They're waiting to hear from you. Oh,
yeah,
gosh, I'm going to put that on
and
a
they are.
bumper sticker.
Yeah, and because they are. And and I think that I feel that make them feel very comfortable, and I think that it's a really good program. And I work with them in essence like I work with the actors, in terms of the intimacy, one-to-one. That listener who's been waiting for you wants to hear from you, so please just talk directly to them. And they get it. They're smart people. They get it. So,
There is this misconception that with nonfiction, they're just basically textbooks. And that there isn't a story there or a natural arc. And I vehemently disagree with that.
no,
I think
absolutely.
that nonfiction books can be utterly compelling and that there are characters within a nonfiction framework. So how do you find your way into that with an author or a narrator,
Yeah.
tackling
Well,
what would
you know,
seemingly be dry nonfiction material, for
yeah.
example?
When they are quoting like clients, say the author's a therapist, and when they tell you the scene and the names, of course, have been changed, but when they're quoting clients, we do sometimes, and I would confer with the producer, we just do a little teeny vocal difference, just a little bit, not much, and that seems to be the way it is across the board, and because it sounds weird. You're the therapist. This is my client, Robbie and Joan, and blah 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 blah. And then Robbie, da 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 da, and Joan, da da da. I'm exaggerating, but that just doesn't work. That doesn't work. And I'm telling you, it sounds funny, but it really kind of just takes care of itself because I've really never done a stinky nonfiction author read. I like them all. It sounds a little Pollyannish, I know,
Well,
but
I mean, I think that's because you turn them into things that are not stinky, because you polish them, you finesse them, you work with them, I mean, that's just one
I
of your
do.
superpowers.
I do. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about going back to what I was saying before about a non-willing actor
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
narrator, whatever we want to
Yeah.
call them,
Yeah. Yeah.
who just doesn't want to be directed? who thinks that they know it all. And we know that there are people out there like this, whether it's a famous celebrity, because I know you work with a lot of those, who just doesn't think that you've got much to offer and that you're just there to give a few technical notes or something, or to facilitate. I don't know what they think, but because I'm not of that ilk. But what do you do then?
Well, I just probably focus on the technical aspects.
Really? You
Because,
just give over, you
yeah,
surrender to that.
I kind of do, because, it's your name as well as the actor. And what you don't want to have happen is somebody giving you a bad mark. I mean, I was a very good student. Okay, I'll come out and say it. But at the same time, you don't want somebody to go back to the publisher and say, they did not have a very good experience, because this will happen. And
really?
so,
You still care about that with the reputation that you have?
sure.
Okay.
Because, because the author and when you're working with the author, they pay everybody's check, and you don't, and that was a little crass, but publishers, they want to protect their authors.
You mean feedback from an author when it's an author read?
Okay. So now we're
Got
talking
it.
about,
Okay, no, this is an important distinction. Yeah.
and then the actor. I mean, if they didn't like the way you worked in some form or fashion, they have no problem telling their agent, and then sure, and then
It's
the agent
true.
would report back to the producer, and then
Do you care as much about that as the authors?
yeah, because what's the first thing they place?
Mm.
The blame.
Mm.
If somebody said, you know, and but at the same time, I don't want somebody to have a bad experience. So if I'm there to guide technical aspects, then I'm there to guide technical aspects. If they don't want to hear from me, I don't take it personally. I really
Yeah.
There is a wonderful, wonderful actress. I love her very much. She is a heck of a person in the booth. She changes color. And she changes attitude. And I know I am not to direct her. But if I see her on the street, Paula, how are you? Da, da, da. In the booth, she said to me once, there's a 400-page children's book. I don't know I forget what it was. She said, I read the first 5 pages and I know exactly what the book is about. You know I don't want to be stopped, Paula. I will do this 400-page book in 2.5 days. And I have a locomotive inside me that I was born with, and or something like that. But this is an extremely fine person. I like her very, very much.
Heartbreaking when the ego gets in the way of the beauty of the story. And we see this a lot, in all mediums,
Sure.
in entertainment. But I find it particularly vexing. And you and I speak about this a lot, You were talking about this locomotive, this speed, that faster is better, getting it done more efficiently is better. And, this world that we live in, that absolutely is the message, isn't it? Forward, more,
100%.
achievement, yes. Different markers of success, and they're the only ones that are of value, and that we're all operating with one currency and one currency only, even though we know that's not true.
Right.
I want to ask you how you feel.
That is because people don't have a lot of meaning in their life, too. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the things I've been.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway.
So it leads me into what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
About speed. This trend we have of people listening to audiobooks on double speed, or 1.6 or 2.5 or whatever people are doing, because they want to hear things faster. And for a technical book where you just want to get the information and be done, okay, I can maybe get along with that. But for actual narrative-driven, story-driven fiction, I don't understand that, because you're taking away from the white space and the guts and the natural engine
and energy of the story. I
Yeah.
find it quite heartbreaking. How do you feel?
Well,
I want to hear the white space and the breath and the
yes,
pauses. I want to
yes.
hear all of it.
Well, I tell my actors, my narrators, that, obey the punctuation. I mean, the listener has to catch up. You have to, take a little beat for yourself, just a slight pause at the comma, full stop at the period, and then the story will unfold that way. I mean, the punctuation is your friend, and you can't go too fast. I said, if the audible listener, I'll just use audible,
Yeah.
wants to speed it up, that's their problem, not yours. So we cannot go too fast. And they, I direct them into the pace, and it works. It really works. Now, if the listener wants to do that, or I say, if the editor does that, shame on the editor. But if the listener does that, you have no control over that. And I don't know if they say that way they read more books. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. And for me, more is just more always.
Yes, yes,
I mean, it's just, I'm all about quality, and I want to be right in there in the present moment, feeling all the feels and
yes.
be in the caboose, for the ride, so that doesn't make any sense to me. Where do you think the majority of narrators get tripped up the most?
I think it's singing. Da 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 da
Yes.
da 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 da. Because then everything sounds like I'm exaggerating. And this is what I say to actors when I show them the difference. I always say, I'm exaggerating. Then everything sounds like Mary had a little lamb. Da 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 da. And you don't set any mood. It's the vocal placement so that you can begin at a lower voice range, because I know I say the voice doesn't act, but you can drop down a little bit and enter the paragraph in a way that you're not singing. And when you don't sing, it allows you to open up the emotion of what's going on in the scene. But when you sing, and the sky was blue, and so yeah, that's where they get tripped up.
Do you think it's because the average person doesn't bring their vulnerability into the booth?
100%. I
I mean,
always
you
tell
got to
them,
get into a vulnerable place to
yes,
drop
yes,
down.
that's right. I always tell them your booth is your sanctuary. You have to leave your social self outside of the booth. So however you take that off, you have to remove your social self, get into your booth naked, so to speak, and treat it as a sanctuary. And before you begin, take a deep breath, know where you're going, but have the curtain. I use theatrical terms all the time, theater terms. I said the curtain will rise and you'll go into it slowly, but you must know the mood you're setting and where you're going, etc. So that's what I try to tell them, to remove their social self. And then when the bell rings and it's FedEx,
I mean, it is such a crazy concept, isn't it? Sitting in a
yes,
dark little
yes,
tiny
yes,
space,
yes, yes.
speaking into the ether, right? And you can't think of it that way because you are picking a person. You're speaking to a specific person.
Well, that's what Sylvester Stallone says he does after all these years. When he's in a scene with somebody, he forms a relationship with them, cousin, neighbor, whatever it is. In his
Okay, that
telephone,
is something I never thought I'd hear you do, is quote Sylvester Stallone.
I didn't think that word either. But I guess this joke, Tulsa Kings, is supposed to be great.
I
Oh,
love it. Oh, well, I mean, it's one of
because
our favorite memories is when remember we were at dear Katie Kelgren, the great Katie
yeah,
Kelgren's funeral
Katie, yeah.
memorial, and you and I were on the train going from talking about
Oh, yeah,
highbrow, Dostoevsky and literature to Poldark and how we were freaking out about Aidan Turner swooshing through, the fields one of the many things I love about our friendship is that it
yeah.
just bounces around to all
Every,
parts of popular culture in addition to all these other places.
well, listen, I work with a lot of young people. I got to know what the hell's going on, I mean, no.
Yeah,
But no, that's me. That's me.
Yeah. What is your favorite thing about working with young people? Because you do work with a lot of young actors,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
I've met some of them who are just like, oh man, she set me on my way. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. What do you love about working with these young people?
Well, I love to see the innate ability. Now,
Mm,
everyone doesn't have innate ability. It can be brought, but I love to see the innate ability. And I love to work with someone who has that innate ability, who has that imagination. Because if you're going to be an audiobook narrator, you have to let your imagination fly free. And some people can't allow it to, it's there, but you have to allow it. You have to open up your mind, get out of your head, and just I love to see that. I love the innate ability. And
mm.
then I love to hear good things that are happening for them because of that innate ability.
And they're
And
fresh, and they haven't taken on as many bad habits too. There's
right.
something about the rawness. There's
Mhm.
something raw and quite simple about very
I was
young
I was
performers.
I was going to say, you know, life is hard, but it's also easy. And
Mm,
portraying life is hard, but it's also easy. If you let what's happening in the scene, the book in that particular page, just let it happen. And we've talked about this before. When you watch an actor like Billy Crudup, and
oh, the great Billy Crudup.
you watch the ease with which he portrays real life,
Well, his
and
instrument is so relaxed,
very relaxed.
and he allows the tension to be created in the scene
Right.
by the
Yeah,
circumstances, by the action, by
exactly.
the, yeah,
Exactly.
it's
Yes.
extraordinary.
Just love. I love to watch it. And yeah. So this is it. He plays it very simply, but he
Mm.
he is true to what is going on. Absolutely true to what is going on. So yeah. I mean, a lot of philosophers say there is no truth, but I don't agree.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What would you say to really experienced narrators who read a lot of books and they're maybe getting a bit stale, maybe getting a bit lazy, phoning it in, not finding the joy, the immediacy, being present, bringing their vulnerability into the booth, using the breath, dropping down,
Right.
all of the
I would.
things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
I would say find it again. You have it. It's yours. It is a paycheck, yes. But imagine if every actor that we saw, that we listened to, we saw on stage, we saw in movies, thought that way. You know, um, no, you, it's a privilege, and you need to treat it as a privilege. And I would say that that's how I feel when I direct someone. It is a privilege, and I try to never forget that. That's what I would say. It's a privilege. And if you need to go back and get coached, like every athlete, most actors, you have to keep getting coached so that you
Yeah.
can bring that joy, that feeling, that privilege back. And all you have to do is
Mm.
talk to somebody who's gonna come on guys, let's go. Okay, hit them harder, go da, run the bases, like
Yeah.
that. Because
We're always
sometimes,
in training.
right? Because
Find
all
the
it
next
takes.
gear.
Exactly. It just
Yeah.
takes something with these people, it just takes fluffing up again.
Yeah. And also the joy and the entertainment and the magic of the process of doing it.
I
I
think
think
people,
we end up getting really focused on outcome
well, I
instead
mean,
of
I
being
think
in the moment.
I think it's a habit of a lot of actors is outcome.
Yeah.
Everybody from, no matter how long they've been doing it is outcome. But it's
Yeah.
like, what was I just going to say? I forgot. It'll come back to me. Yeah, but you don't want it to, no, not the outcome. But it's, yeah.
What's a book that you've worked on that you can recall where you caught the wave and it was magical, and you were right in there, and there was just kinetic energy. You were just cellularly moved by it.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. There's a book. I worked on the 10th anniversary edition of American Gods, and it was a multicast. And there is an actor. He does a lot of voiceovers, but he does a lot of Broadway. His name is Dan Oreskes, and he played the lead character. The guy has one name, but with a guy like that who is so connected and his voice is magic, but he doesn't use his voice. He acts everything. And then the other people that I cast in the different roles, I was able to cast everything. And yeah, I mean, I was in it to win it with all of the actors, and they were there to win it with me. And it was up for the Audiobook of the Year, and then I think Janice Ian won it, but it always goes to stars. So
Yeah.
wait a
Yeah.
minute. But yeah, all those different characters, and I'm not. It was Neil Gaiman's book, and that's really not my kind of a read, but to work with all those actors in a book that is known worldwide was a privilege, a great privilege.
Oh, Paula, I could talk to you about this all day long, and you and I will have many, many, many conversations on the couch, in the car, on the train, in the theater, at a restaurant, wherever. I mean, it's one of the great joys of my life. I always close every episode with the same question, which is, when you have a dream in your heart and you don't feel like you have what it takes to make it happen, what do you say?
I say that you do. And the only thing holding you back is you. And you have to do something, one thing, even if it's only one thing every day to reach that dream. And, you can't give up. You can't give up. As hard as it may be. And I watch some people, especially my husband is a writer, and he's written since the day I met him. And that's a very long time ago. And he's never given up. He's finished his second novel, and he just keeps going. I'll send it to this person. I'll do that. He never gives in to it. And so you can't give up. You can't give in. You have to get going, because a piece of it will come back to you, and you never know what form that may be in. So always keep it in your heart, and because it's going to say to you, I'm here, and you can do what you want with me, but I'm just telling you, I'm here, and I'm not going to go away. So that's what I would have to say.
Yeah. Oh, I love you. Thank you for the way that you show up in the world.
Oh, thank you, Tess. And thank you. This was such a pleasure. I'm so happy that you invited me, Tess.
Oh, are you kidding me? Like I said to you, I think I did it selfishly because I wanted a recording of one of our amazing conversations.
Oh,
and there will be more.
I hope so. I hope so.
Oh, so many great nuggets from that conversation. If you're an actor, bring the same energy to rehearsal as you do to performance. And be a willing actor. Collaborate and relish direction and finding things, making those discoveries, or your performance suffers. And co-check your ego. It just gets in the way of the story. And that being a stallion, I love that image. Great actors want to be directed. There's nothing better than working with a willing actor and turning their talent into gold. That Michael J. Fox story that he wanted to be ridden like a stallion to bring out the best performance. And defining the medium. Narrating audiobooks is a really intimate form of storytelling. The listener is right across from you. I love that technical tip, just making your voice no wider than the width of your skull. And bringing the audience in as a participant. If you don't consider them, you're losing half of the dynamism of your performance. So creating that relationship with the listener. Listeners are waiting to hear from you. And the voice can't act. That's Paul's signature phrase. We heard all about it from him last week. But I like Paula's spin on it. Let the words help themselves. Don't just do oral interp. Put your arm around the listener. Bring them into the story by connecting with the intention and the emotions underneath the words. And the Kristen Linklater tip, Put a brain in your lips and another one in your gut, just getting out of your head and into your body for a really, really moving performance. Taking the breath. Don't break the breath. Taking the time to breathe, and then your listener will breathe with you. Your listener does what you do. And yeah, that's true. A great audiobook experience is when you as the listener, you breathe, you act, you're right there in the action with the narrator. And the importance of vulnerability. I loved it when she said your booth is your sanctuary. Leave your social self out of the booth. Bring your vulnerability into it. Take a breath, form a relationship with the listener, and begin. And audiobook listeners, do you want to go on a second date? I loved her likening listening to audiobooks to dating, going out with somebody. And if you want a second date with somebody. So if you don't, with a narrator, move on to another story. Is the narrator singing the words and phrases, or are they bringing you the emotion of the story? Do you feel like you're living inside of it with the character? Are you moved? And for the full emotional experience and to get all the nuances of the story, listen to audiobooks at the original speed. So you can breathe with the narrator. You can feel all the air, the pauses, all of the emotion. And I asked Paula for some recommendations for some books that she thinks, are examples of doing this really, really well. So we talked about American Gods, 10th anniversary edition. That multicast is extraordinary with Daniel Areskes leading it. He's just unbelievable. Beautiful Ruins is a book that she has told me about many times, narrated by Eduardo Ballerini. And The House of Scorta is another one, narrated by Daniel Areskes. She really, really loves him, and he is unbelievable. And, I said she's got an eye and an ear for picking talent. She recently worked with Sarah Norton and Amani Jade Powers, and she said to me, Tess, the future is theirs. So definitely listen to something that they have narrated and watch out for their work. And general lessons, modulating our approach to the personality that we're dealing with, advocating for what you believe in. I loved when she said, when something is good, I don't have a problem talking about it. You just do it easily. And celebrating your knowledge and experience and bringing it in to your work. Every time I direct someone, my prior knowledge enables me to think on my feet. And collaborating with others, being happy for the opportunities and the success of others and how you can play a part in that, putting people at ease, helping them to feel confident and comfortable, sharing what you know in a generous way so that others can learn and you can do it in a way that's not overbearing or intrusive. Paula just invites it in. She invites you to come to her and share in it. It's a lovely way to be and to move through the world, and particularly to work with actors. Just helping people make discoveries to find what works. I really love her approach. When I'm giving direction, I always say, let's just see what this sounds like. To just point actors into a direction that may or may not be right. We're just exploring it together. And elevating and celebrating others. It does feel good to connect and help people. And it takes so little, but it means the world to someone else. I loved when she said, give something. Give yourself. It may not be giving money, but you're giving your thought, a little bit of your time, and a lot of your hope. And the big takeaway for me from all of this, whether you are a narrator, an audiobook listener, or you are existing in some other wonderful place in the world, treating your work as a privilege, that you get to do what you love to do. And like every athlete, training, doing the work, and connecting and relishing the joy of doing it. I would love to hear about an audio book that you have listened to that is baked into your heart. I would really love to hear about it and listen to your recommendations. So please share it in the Facebook group and leave a review. Can't wait to hear about it.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.